Hello everyone, it's Denise from For the Love of Geese. Today I'm going to share the tools and fabrics for my new flower patch sew along. I hope you'll join me. Let's begin with the fabric that was supplied to me by Island Batik for my quilt. The reason why I chose these specific fabrics is because they're from the Foundations collection. What's great about the Foundations collection is they're available throughout the year, unlike seasonal fabrics that last until they're gone. Their foundations consist of blenders, neutrals, solids, and basics. You can view the entire collection on their website at islandbatik.com. On the left-hand menu, you'll see a product category, and just click on foundations and you'll be able to choose which subcategory you'd like. So for my light fabric, I chose Shark. For my medium, I chose Azure. And for my dark, I chose Navy. My background fabric is their solid white. All right, so the tools, first, I recommend, but it's not required, I recommend an add a quarter ruler. It doesn't matter whether you have the 6-inch or the 12-inch. They're both going to perform the same duty. What's great about these rulers is they have a 1/4-inch lip on the back that you butt against your fabric for trimming your 1/4-inch seam. So if I laid that against the cardstock and cut there, I would have a perfect 1/4-inch seam. Cardstock. This is actually photo paper. I purchased my printer ink from Canon. I always purchase the color black combos, which includes photo paper, but I never use the photo paper, not to print photos anyway. I always use this for my cardstock. You can use them again and again until they're just, serve their usefulness. And then you can discard it and start with a new one. An alternative, I'm sorry, I've got to back up. An alternative to the add a quarter ruler. If you do not have or don't want to purchase the add a quarter ruler, I'm sure you have a clear ruler. Any clear ruler will do as long as you have a clear 1/4-inch line across your ruler. So, but you also will need something like this when we trim our blocks up after all of the templates have been put together. You'll need a pair of shears, whether they're big ones or little ones, it doesn't really matter. It's basically for trimming your threads. Glue. I really recommend that you start with a glue stick. The reason being, the glue stick you will apply to the back of your template when you begin piecing, and it just holds that first patch in place while you're trimming and sewing your next patch on. The purple is great. I love the purple. It is a disappearing purple. However, sometimes on the white fabric, it will show through and it doesn't completely disappear. And that's okay because it will come out in the wash. If it bothers you, you can always take a spray bottle and mist it. But as a rule, I generally don't worry about it too much. I just let it go, and if it's gone by the time it hits the washing machine, great. If it's not, that's fine too. You can see that it's already starting to disappear there. It's not as dark. Let's see, what else? Your templates. All right, when you download the the file for block 1, you will see a block diagram. This block diagram identifies where each patch fits within the quilt block. For instance, this is block J. So let's see. This would be block J right there. All right. Now, you'll also notice that on the diagram and on your template, they're all numbered. J1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is your piecing order. That's the order that you will follow when adding your fabrics to the template. You'll also notice that this particular block has a D. I'm sorry, not block, patch. This particular patch has a D. That is for dark fabric. M is for medium. L is for light. Now, some of the patches do not have that extra label. That's because that is my background fabric. So E4 is my background fabric. F4 is my background fabric. The template is also not colored. That does help because some of these blues, depending on your printer, do not really show that big of a difference in their tones. For instance, this is medium, and this is light, and this is dark, and it shows up pretty well on your screen, but looking at it in person, the medium and the light resemble each other. And then if I cover up that medium, then the light and the dark, it could get a little bit confusing. So I've tried to minimize that confusion. All you have to do is look at your template, see where it is, locate it in the block diagram, and just see whether that's medium, light, or dark. All right, so I've removed my templates from the sheets already, and you can remove them in any manner that is easiest for you. For me, I prefer to take my clear ruler. As long as you cut outside of this cut line. This cut line is where we will be trimming the templates after they've been pieced. So you'll want to make sure that when you remove them from the sheets, you'll want to cut outside that line. You can leave the extra on. I'm just showing you this as an example. All right, so there's our templates. They're removed from the diagram. Also, let me back up a second. In the download, there's also a coloring sheet. You can use this. You can print it, not print it. It's totally up to you. If you choose your own fabrics, that's great. This will just help you in deciding where you want to place the fabric. And again, you can also reference this and the diagram when you're piecing your templates. So let's get this out of the way. Now the templates, when we begin piecing these, you will always want to follow the order that's marked on the template. For instance, this is S1. This is the S template. So you piece S1, then 2, then 3. This is the J template. J1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Now I've applied a dab of glue on the paper so I can show you what we're doing here. So first I'm going to let me back up again. Sorry, a whole lot of backing ups. Strips. As far as cutting your fabric, if you follow my cutting examples, you will have a little bit of each fabric remaining. If you prefer to do your own thing, cut your own fabric, you may want to purchase a little bit extra. But for block 1, we're going to be cutting strips at 2 3/4 of an inch for all 4, the light, medium, dark, and white. And begin by piecing, by adding your patch and strip. Next, if you're using an add-a-quarter ruler, you'll want to lay your cardstock on the line. That's your stitch line. You'll want to lay that on that line between patch 1 and patch 2. Doesn't have to be exact. Fold your paper back. Lay your add-a-quarter ruler there and cut. And I have a perfect 1/4 inch seam. So this is what the fabric side looks like. Next patch is white. So I'm going to grab my strip. And as you'll see, I have been doing a little bit of piecing on my own before the video. So this is a tail, and we'll get to that here in a minute, why that's angled. So for patch 2, we know that the patch, this is your stitch line, this is the pre-marked seam line on the template, that's this line. This line here is going to be this and this. All right, so when we lay our template onto the strip, we'll want to make sure that we have at least a 1/4 of an inch between our stitch line and the 1/4 inch line. Let's just rough there. All right, so that's our 1/4 inch line. So we'll want to line up the corner and the raw edge, confirming that we have extended past that cut line. So there is the raw edge on the white fabric, and there is the cut line on our template. So we'll take this to the machine, tail and all, and you want to make sure that you do a back stitch. You want to secure those stitches at the beginning and end of each seam line. Back stitch. You will want to drop your stitch count down to about 1.5. All right, so I've done my back stitching at the beginning and end. I've stitched on the stitch line. I've extended past the end of the stitch line, just as you would do with regular piecing. You don't want to start sewing right on that corner point. You always want to include a 1/4 inch seam. So now we're going to flip this. You can press it, not press it, run your fingernail across it. It's up to you. So we folded it back. Next, we're going to flip that over, and we're going to trim that tail off. Again, stay away from that cut line. Next, we will do patch 3. So our cardstock. Lay the cardstock right on the line. You will need to pull the paper away from your stitching. And it's okay if you tear it. If the rip is too bad, get you some clear glue clear tape, and just tape it back together. So since I've shown you what the add a quarter ruler will do, if you don't have an add a quarter ruler, get your clear ruler, you will want to lay your 1/4 inch line on your fold. So let's line that up. And if you leave your cardstock in that, it will make locating the edge much easier. Trim that off. And again, I have a 1/4 inch seam. So on to J3. Again, because our template, our patch on the template is angled, we're going to start on the angled line, on the angled tail. Line up your raw edges. Make sure you have extended past that 1/4 inch seam, or I'm sorry, make sure you extend past that cut line. Take it to your machine. Lock stitch at the beginning and back. And again, I've stitched on the stitch line, and I have a nice point on that flying geese unit. Let's run our fingernail across there. All right, so now you've got this tail extending out the top, not the side. No worries. Lay your cardstock. Next, we're doing patch 4. Lay your cardstock on that line. Break the paper away from the fabric. Fold your paper back. Okay, so there's our tail. Now if we're using the add a quarter ruler, just butt it up there. If you do not have one, again, line your 1/4 inch line with the edge of your template and cut your tail off. You've still got your angled tail. All right, so our next patch is, again, it's going to be white. So I'm going to take the squared end of my strip and match up my 1/4 inch edge with the raw edge of my strip. Take it to the machine. Again, back stitch front and in. Stitch on the line. All right, so now our tail is sticking off the side, but let's not cut that off until we make sure that our strip covers the entire patch. So we're going to flip, press with your nail, an iron. It's totally up to you. If I were not filming the video, I would use an iron to press. So here I've got my template completely covered. Double check, make sure I have my patch covered. I do. So then I'm just going to cut that tail off. And see how nice that point finishes. That is a nice flying geese unit. So we are going to finish off this template. Again, lay your paper on your seam line. Pull the paper gently away from the fabric. Fold. Trim your 1/4 inch seam. And again, we're going to use the squared end on our strip. We're going to match our raw edges for the strip on the template. Take it to your machine. Again, back stitching, beginning and end. Stitch on the seam line. And fold our paper back. And I know my paper, my template, the patch on the template is completely covered, so I went ahead and trimmed that. So there you have a nice pieced template. You've got nice points on all three corners of your geese. All right, now trimming these blocks. All right, so I have pieced this completely. So when you have finished piecing all of your blocks, I like to do all of my cutting at once because it does make a big mess. So using your ruler with the clear 1/4 inch line. Now this is tricky because you do not want to line your ruler up with that cut line. Don't do that. We want to make sure we have a nice 1/4 inch line past our stitch line. And our stitch line is this heavy line right here. This is our cut line. Ignore this cut line for now. We're going to match the clear ruler, the 1/4 inch line, on that stitch line. So lining up the 1/4 inch line on the stitch line all the way across and trim. And there is one side trimmed. Do the same thing all the way around. 1/4 inch line from the ruler lined up on your stitch line. And last line. All right, so there we have, this is patch G, which is right here. This is paper side, the diagram is paper side up. So if you look at it here, that looks wrong, but it's not. If you flip it over, you have your solid square, which is G3. You have G2 and G1. So don't let the diagram confuse you. The paper side up diagram helps you when you've got all of your templates pieced and they're all trimmed like this. You can lay this off to the side and say, okay, well, this is the G template, and let's say this is the H template. You can lay your templates out in the same layout as the block for easy joining. So that is it for now. I'm going to get back to finishing these templates. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on my blog at fortheloveofgeese.com. Until next time, happy stitching.